Kingston, Jamaica, this is CVM News at Noon for Wednesday, April 9, 2025. I'm Courtney Lewis. Thank you so much for joining us. The government is set to launch a technology platform to facilitate vehicle fitness certification and registration online in the coming months. The platform will also allow for the police to access vehicle information from the vehicle's license plate. This move follows the Prime Minister's announcement that the validity of motor vehicle fitness certificates and registration will be extended. Transport Minister Darrell Vaz offered further clarity in a post-cabinet media briefing today.
It is important to clarify that contrary to some media and social media reports, the policy position announced by the Prime Minister does not currently exist in our legislation. Existing provisions allow 6 months for commercial vehicles and a maximum of 2 years for all other vehicles. Let me again, for clarity, state that there will be no fee increase in this policy change. So the extension of the time for your registration and your certificate of fitness will not come at an additional cost. For the new policy, new vehicles will be up for 5 years. So from you purchase a new vehicle, your fitness will be allowed for 5 years. In relation to 3 years old cars, unless those will be for 3 years, and anything over 3 years old will be up to 2 years.
The patience of residents in Port Morant, St. Thomas, is growing thin due to what they call a water crisis happening in the parish. They say the issues arose after road repair work started in the area. One gas station worker shared his concern.
Well, water we get some about 2-3 months now. No look good. Big community like Portman. Water crisis. See them somebody want to use the bathroom right now. We can't use it. Come on. This one want to use the bathroom, we can't use it. Everybody water, tank water. You don't understand how water want to Portman. Portman must stay so. This one man them dig up the road. Over there so and dig up right down in front of China. No water when I get it. All I report, nothing. All I report, nothing. This is what goes about now. Out of service.
The Jamaica Constabulary Force has reported a 36% reduction in murders. Dr. Jason Mackay, speaking on CVM's lead story, credited this decline to various factors resulting from the efforts of the police force.
I mean, there are places for both approaches. Occupation can play its part, and Zosa has certainly assisted in the places where it was employed. But I mean, but then as you employ it in one zone, you see problems crop up in another, which is why you perhaps need the same rules that govern Zosa being applied nationally rather than parochially. But Zosa has played its part to reduce the homicides in areas, particularly St. James. I mean, St. James' recovery is phenomenal. I mean, it's almost gone back to the pre-scamming days. It is really because the big thrust there that started that was Zosa and parochial states of emergencies. But police strategies are not singular. You know, it's multifaceted. So you have the Zosas, the parochial states of emergency. You have the surgical strikes against the gangs. Don't underestimate these new laws that have come out with that new gun bill. Most of the guys normally would go and pay a fine, and a lot of them would be right out, or they spend a year and they come out again. No, everybody who's charged for a gun, it's a one-way street to hell. You don't see them for years upon years, and you're not seeing them around. So those missing personalities have a lot to do with it. Then you have major crime figures that are behind bars, or no longer with us. So all of this, there's less persons involved in the fight, and those who are left, who are not imprisoned or otherwise, they're running scared because there's such a massive thrust against them.
Barita Investments Limited is making its debut on the Jamaica Stock Exchange bond market, launching its first ever public bond offer valued at 2.25 billion Jamaican dollars. The offer includes 7 tranches of US and Jamaican dollar denominated senior unsecured bonds. It's part of the company's move to strengthen its footing as a leading securities dealer.
Have 2 US dollar tranches and we have 5 Jamaican dollar tranches. So the 2 US dollar tranches are 2 years and 3 years, right? And the 2-year is priced very attractively at 7%, and the 3-year is priced at 7.5%. And that is also very attractive, and this is on US dollar investments, right? And when we're talking about bonds, it's a loan. We're talking about capital preservation. You're going to be getting your interest quarterly and your principal at maturity. Yes. On the Jamaican dollar side, we have 5 options. We have a 2-year option, 3-year option, 5-year option, a 7-year option, and a 10-year option.
The Senior Vice President of Investment Banking says the team launched this initiative with the citizens' best interest in mind.
That there are institutional investors, there are large corporate entities, there are people like you and me who have our own goals and aspirations. You might be wanting to, look forward to or investing in your retirement, children's education. You might want to own a home, and you have these goals and you want to set some money aside to help you to achieve some of those goals.
The Kingston and St. Andrew municipal meeting yesterday took a pause after conflicting views on allegations of water quality were once again raised. The councillor for the Lawrence Tavern Division, John Myers, walked out of the meeting disgruntled, but Trafalgar Division councillor Jesse James Clark said his concern is not a political move.
The only thing that surprised us today is the reactions of some of the members, because at the Public Health and Sanitation Committee, the concerns about the water quality, it was bipartisan. So both sides had concerns about the quality of the water that was being supplied to rural residents. And some have backtracked on those concerns once it became public. So, that was the only surprise for me today, and I'm a little bit disappointed about that. But I just want to make it plain and clear to the public and to the entire Jamaica that we did not raise the concerns about the water quality from a political point of view. We raised it because there was a genuine concern from all the members of the committee, from both sides of the political aisle.
CVM News at Noon continues after this break.
You ever get bun yet? Me not talk about heartbreak. Me talk about the bun with full of spice, raisins, and the perfect glaze.
Bun for bun.
So you do it now.
You have to get bun.
This Easter, you have to get bun from Mother's Bakery.
Many of our brothers and sisters lose hope when diagnosed with HIV. Some lose their will to continue being a part of society. Others are despaired by the challenges of keeping up with their treatment. We understand. But remember, people with HIV live normal and progressive lives every day. You can too if you get back on track with your HIV treatment. Live for you, live for someone, live for something.
Get back on track, get back to life.
A message from the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
Welcome back. It's time for a live discussion segment. Following recent public discourse regarding water quality in Kingston and St. Andrew, the Ministry of Health and Wellness yesterday confirmed that some water samples from systems operated by the National Water Commission, the NWC, tested positive for E. coli. However, the ministry advises that there is currently no cause for alarm and no boil water advisory has been deemed necessary. It is said that the detection of the bacteria is not unusual, particularly during drought conditions, following pipe breakages, heavy rainfall, or other environmental contamination events. In addition to the water concern, there was another matter, however, in the public eye that raised alarm relating to microorganisms that may have been present in the container filled with chicken that washed ashore in Hellshire. Joining us now to provide a medical perspective on the potential health repercussions related to both incidents is consultant medical microbiologist at the University Hospital of the West Indies, Dr. Jerome Walker. Welcome, Dr. Walker.
Hi, welcome. Thank you.
So I'd first like to ask about E. coli. What is it and in what circumstances is it dangerous to humans?
Okay, so E. coli is a bacteria that actually can be found in the intestines of most persons, right? And actually plays a vital role in preventing other more pathogenic infections from taking foot, as well as providing vitamins, essential vitamins like vitamin K and vitamin B. E. coli, on the other hand, there are certain particular strains that can cause disease in humans. It can cause intestinal disease, so gastroenteritis. It can cause urinary tract infections, and in serious infections can lead to sepsis and even death.
So what are some of the symptoms of dangerous exposure to E. coli?
Okay, so it must be, before I answer that question, I want to first highlight that the detection of E. coli in the water systems does not automatically mean that there is a pathogenic strain that is present. Right? And what is often done is that they look at the particular levels, because when you see E. coli in the water systems, it does suggest that there has been some kind of contamination, whether it's from storm runoff or other sources. But if the levels reach a certain threshold or below a certain threshold, then the decision can be taken that there is a low risk to intestinal pathogens, because the presence, or the more that you see, is the more likely that there may be a pathogenic E. coli or even other potential pathogens, whether they be bacterial or viral. When it comes to the symptoms, if there should be something that, especially if somebody is drinking contaminated water, they can have gastrointestinal symptoms such as vomiting. Diarrhea would be prominent. And in some severe cases, there are other kinds of symptoms that they may see, like in the stool, they may be febrile, etc. But the likelihood of these really are going to be low unless there is contamination with pathogenic strains of E. coli.
Okay, but how often is the testing for E. coli even done? Are you aware, and do we need to increase it?
Okay, so though I don't work for the ministry, I cannot comment on the frequency that water samples are taken. But it is a routine process that occurs, and the National Water Commission and the Ministry of Health regularly screen the water for the presence of coliforms and are able to report when there is a dangerous level that is detected. And these are in keeping with both local and international standards.
All right, thank you so much for that. We're going to take a quick break. Stay with us. We'll be back with our discussion segment in a moment.
The Time is brought to you by Ford Territory.
Sports should be fun. Sports should be interesting. Sports should be entertaining. Sports should be riveting. This is CVM Sports. I'm Jordan Fort.
thanks for staying with us. We're still in our discussion segment and we're talking with consultant medical microbiologist Dr. Jerome Walker. Now, on the chicken that washed ashore in Hellshire, are you aware if any samples of the beached chickens have been made available for testing?
Okay, so I am not aware of if any of the chickens have been made available. But what I do want to use this opportunity to do is to show that the importance of testing environmental samples for pathogens such as E. coli and other viruses, how important these things are. And in fact, it is something that the University of the West Indies, the microbiology department at the University of the West Indies actively takes a role in. We are going to be hosting, for example, at the end or in the beginning of May, May 1 and 2, the Global Virus Network event, which is going to be partnered with the Global Infectious Disease Research Training Program. And it's going to have experts from the region around the world who are going to be talking about issues such as viral surveillance and looking at projects that we here at the university, such as the Abbott Pandemic Defense Coalition, where we actually can look at samples to look for viruses that we have not yet are not known to be circulating. And, you know, we should be checking environment for contamination with environmental pathogens. We should be checking for viruses, but you never know. There may be an outbreak and people are not able to pick it up until people are showing in the hospital. But if we're surveying, for example, sewage water, which is done all around the world, to see what is being passed into the sewer systems, you can detect outbreaks pretty early and make interventions before it becomes a real problem.
But Dr. Walker, in this specific incident, what are some of the assumed threats from the exposure to that poultry? What about the potential presence of the avian flu?
Okay, so that is a very, very difficult question to answer because, you know, it would require knowing what the chickens, what they were housed and how they were bred, what was the actual mode of transportation, and other things to be able to clue you in as to what potential pathogens they could have. And when it comes to avian flu, you have to remember that the cases that have been found in the United States, for example, in humans, are really persons who generally work very closely with the animals, right? And so, yes, there may be a potential if any of them are infected, but it would be low potential, given that this time, the transmissibility of H5N1 is not very high to humans.
So what are the more likely bacteria that could be found from those beach chickens?
Well, we all know, and this is why, you know, we are encouraged to, you know, wash our hands after, you know, touching meat, etc. We all know that meat can easily be contaminated with organisms such as salmonella, right? There are pathogenic kinds of E. coli that can also contaminate chicken. And there are a number of other pathogens. But the reality is the top ones are usually salmonella and E. coli.
Tell us a little bit more about those types of viruses. What are the symptoms? How do we protect ourselves, apart from washing our hands, if there's any?
Okay, so definitely there are many ways to protect ourselves. One is exactly what the Ministry of Health is doing, which is to surveil our drinking water and other